Next up, we have lesson 7-2, math boxes. I will not go into great detail to explain everything in the math boxes because this is something you should be able to do on your own. It's nothing new. The first question, it's asking you to measure a couple of things around your house. It says on there, it's expecting you to use inches. Now, I don't expect you to have a ruler at home that has inches because we use centimeters in Canada. In Canada and in Venezuela, I'm sorry. So, for example, it's asking you to measure a piece of paper, the length and the width. Now, if you have a piece of paper, the length is the long part. So here, the length would be this part. The width would be the shorter part, how wide it is, which would be this part. Now, simply take your ruler and measure it in centimeters. The next question, you're expected to measure something like a dictionary. Now, if you don't have a dictionary at home, feel free to use any book, really, any novel that you may have lying around or any textbook that you may have, as long as you know how to determine what the length is and what the width is. If you have a notebook will look something like this. Bear with me and my drawing skills. They're not the greatest, but let's say your book looks like that. The length, again, will be the longer part, the side. You measure that. And the width will be this, how wide it is. This part right here is considered the height. Now, we're not there yet because we would only need to measure the height if we're trying to find the volume of the object. We're not finding the perimeter right now either. We're simply just outlining what its dimensions are. Then you're expected to find the palm of your hand. Again, find what the longest part is, and then the width of your hand. The width is always the shorter side. And then you can find an object of your choice. Anything you'd like to measure around the house. Measure your stove if you want, your dryer, your microwave, anything that you want. Next up, we have to identify the correct stem and leaf plot. Many of you were here when we explained this in class, but there were some of you that were absent. A stem and leaf plot is a way to outline numbers. For example, let's say we want to measure how many candies you eat per week. Now, you shouldn't really be eating a lot of candies, but we're just going to use this as an example. Let's say there are some of you that eat somewhere in the 20s. A number of candies that are somewhere in the 20s. So on this side of the stem, call this the stem, like the branch of a tree, the stem. And on this side we have the leaves of a tree, right? Let me draw a little leaf here for you so you know what I'm talking about. The leaves of a tree. And this would be the ones. Okay? On the stem, let's say, as I was mentioning, some of you eat candies somewhere in the 20s. You get lots of candies, and we'll count everything that has sugar as candy. It could even be a cocosete. We'll just throw it in there as a candy. And you eat somewhere in the 20s. Well, let's say we have Mateo. Mateo eats 22 candies per week. So he's in the 20s, so there's a 2 in the 10s, and he eats 22. So there's also a 2 in the 1s. There is the number 22. But then let's say we have Eva. Eva eats 29 candies per week. We don't have to write the 2 again. Just leave that 2, but we do add the 9 over here. Okay? And then we have, let's say, Cheryl. And Cheryl, she eats 24 candies per week. So we just add the 4. Because we have the 2 for the 20 in the tens place, and then the 4. And that's a stem and leaf plot. Well, now you have there a girl by the name of Amanda collects Dobson flies, these little flies, And below she measures them, and below you have the length in millimeters, very tiny measurements for the flies in her collection. She has 95, 107, 119, and so on. Find which stem and leaf plot correctly organizes the numbers that have been listed above. Then find the median. The median, remember, is the middle number. Find the minimum, the lowest number, the range. What is the difference between the lowest number and the highest number? And then the mode, which number repeats the most. Okay. Oh, I just explained the angle section. Apparently I was not recording, so let me do that again. This year we have learned how to estimate angles, so that if you don't have a protractor at home, you can still do this. Let me try to draw the angle that we see on this page. We have an angle that's about that length, right? Mine looks to be a little higher. And then there's the 90 degree. If you draw the 90 degree will help you estimate what this angle is. But if you have a protractor at home, go ahead and use your protractor. It'll be a lot faster and more precise. For now, if you don't have one, you're left with trying to estimate. Here's a hint. If we know that this is 90 degrees, right? This right here is 90 degrees. Then let's try to estimate what half would be. Let's find the half point. To me, that looks about half. And we know that half of 90, because this would be 0 down here, is 45 degrees. Well, whereabouts is this in between 0 and 45? Is it right at the half? Is it just below half? That's for you to determine. And then finally, we're going to find the discount. It says here, calculate the sales price. And we have to find what 25% of 12 is. Remember that we've learned in class that if 12 is the whole number, that number goes below, because that's going to equal what 100% is. So 12 is the whole, the same way that 100 is our whole. And above 100, because we said that this is 100%, is the 25%. Right? What must we do to the 12 to make it 100? We must multiply it by some number. You can find that. Okay? Or you can go backwards and find what you had to do, what number you get when you divide the other way, when you go backwards. So you take 100 and you divide it by 12. So that's what you did if you went backwards. So then you have to do the same thing to the 25. If you're going to go backwards, just find out, use the number that you get here when you divide 100 divided by 12 and divide the 25 by that number, and that'll give you your answer. Another way is to know that 25, okay, let me make this smaller over here and move it up here. Okay. We know that 25 is 1/4. There are 4 25s in 100. There are 4 of these, 25, 50, 75, 100. So we understand that it's 1/4. Well, what's 1/4 of 12? What is 1 of 4 parts? Let's divide 12 divided by 4 and see what one of those numbers would be. Okay? Once you get this number here, you have to subtract that from the 12 so that you know that that's your discount. That's how much money you're being discounted, so that you can get the actual sales price. I'll do the first one for you. I understand that 12 divided by 4, so I can find what's one part of 12, is 3. So really I'm saving, when I save 25% of $12, I'm saving $3. Well, what's 12 minus 3? Since I'm saving $3, yeah, it's 9. So the new price is $9. That's one way to do it, boys and girls. Another much simpler way is this. You take your $12, you multiply it by 0.25. You just convert the percent into a decimal. And we know that when we convert it into a decimal, it's in the hundredths place because it's out of 100. Okay? And once you multiply that, you actually get your answer. You get, well, actually, I won't tell you. You go ahead and figure it out.